No home win in 8 months, not taking the lead all season. What could possibly go wrong for the U's as they visit hapless Shrewsbury away? A thoroughly unprofessional and frankly awful 90 minutes and a game we'll quickly want to forget. Unfortunately though, UTAS can't forget they have to release a review pod, so here we bloody are. Hello everyone, welcome to Under the Abbey Stand. Like I said, it's the review show. My name's Jordan Warland, and joining me, two rather glum looking panellists. First up, my friend and yours, the man with the stats, Matt Caspel.
Hello, mate. Happy Monday. That's what we do now on the pod, isn't it? We make a joke about the day of the week. Monday?
Well, no, we're recording this on the Sunday. We record the preview pod on the Friday and release it on the Friday. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right, I see. Sorry. I don't want to, show everyone how the sausage is made. But
yeah. Don't ruin the magic.
Don't ruin the magic. It's great to be here. Speaking of magic, Shrewsbury away.
Oh, what a day. What a day.
Yeah.
Finishing the panel, the man behind the Tomino's, that is Tomino Sunday, it's Tom Walker.
How we doing, mate? Seen this one before, loads of times. It's like just rewatching your least favourite film, like forcibly, isn't it? Yeah. You know what? When I listened to the preview on Friday, I heard the stats of like Appleton's home record and Shrewsbury's home record, and I just went, "Oh,
See, I was the opposite. I had a friend text me on Friday, and they said, "I've got Cambridge in my treble for Saturday. That a good idea?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. Off you go. Guaranteed money there, fella." So yeah, on me that one. How you both feeling today? Angry, upset, disappointed, fine? What's the mood?
That's where you go first, mate. We're just bad at each other.
You look like you're struggling. I feel all right. It's not anger. I mean, I just there's no space for anger over a football match, really, in my opinion. It was absolutely terrible. But I think everyone knows that, and it's like, I guess, trying to stay upbeat or optimistic. Just like, I guess I felt like the recent couple of like better performances and better results we had didn't suddenly make us like an automatic promotion or even playoff contender. I don't think one extremely bad day at the office suddenly makes us not that thing, if you know what I mean. Like, a single game shouldn't change everyone's opinion about us too much. I think the feeling I'm left with is like, it's a bit of a Harris thing. I think it's like, when a Harris team is good, they're like a 7 out of 10. And that's about the height. That's about as good as it gets. And when they are bad, it is completely fucking abysmal. To be fair to him, we've not played that badly. I think under him in either spell, I just can't think of anything unless Walker, the Oracle with his memory, is going to come and tell me differently. I just think it was exceptionally poor. I think we were poorly set up. And I just think we were completely off it. It honestly looked like one of those games you get around Christmas time where they've had their fucking night out the night before, because we just looked completely off the pace, totally lethargic, completely out of ideas, no creativity, barely mustered any opportunities, didn't deserve to get anything out of the football match. And so we didn't, basically, against one of the worst teams, certainly on form basis in the division right now. Sort of outcoached, outworked, outplayed, out everything, basically. Literally nothing to be enthusiastic about from the entire performance. So maybe I am angry. Sound quite angry, actually. Just disappointed.
Just think about that Nascimento goal midweek, though. That'll pick you up.
That's stuff. Well, we've always got that, hey.
Well, Neil Harris said it was one of the worst performances he's seen from a team of his in his 500-odd games in management. I think you've just listed off all the reasons that made it so bad. What about you, Tom? The wait for league back-to-back wins goes on. What made Saturday so bad for you, other than traumatic experiences on the train and at Greg's? But we're not touching on that in this podcast.
That's a coconut tier special.
That's coconut tier.
The hula hat tier, yeah.
Trust me, it's worth it.
Just £5 a month. Just £5 a month.
Yeah. I mean, Caspel's kind of summed it up quite nicely. There's already loads to add to it. I mean, we were chatting just before we started recording, and like, to be honest, I didn't even really think about it in this way. But when you put Shrewsbury and Tranmere together, you're like, it's a lot of travel for a pretty very, very poor return, really. And the thing is, like, like we always say things like, oh, obviously it's going to be us. Like, we're obviously going to be that team that's going to like give Shrewsbury that first win and all this sort of stuff. And it's classic Cambridge, all the rest of it. But like, you kind of like they were 23rd in the league. Like we don't have to do that. Like, you can turn up and be better, really. Um, yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot to take apart, really, 'cause it was a really poor performance. I think like Neil Harris wouldn't be a professional football manager if he'd had too many more performances like that in those 500 odd games or whatever it is. So not hard to believe that that's obviously one of the worst that. Well, he's saying that that's one of the worst that he's seen. Yeah, just devoid of anything really, wasn't it? I think really frustrating that because I guess in a way it kind of sums up what the division is. Like, it did feel like we were starting to get a bit of momentum, a little bit of a sort of head of steam going, and all right, Tranmere was very poor, but it's a point on the road, and then you beat Crawley, and then you beat Luton midweek. And I know it's not a competition that we particularly care for, but it's still it's still a win against a what was apparently a pretty strong Luton side, by all accounts. With our reserves, and you come into this and you're like, can we just back it up with like a really good professional job on the road? And kind of couldn't have really been further from it, really. Sloppy all day, conceded two absolutely horrific goals. Really, really poor.
And was that the difference between Tranmere a couple of weeks ago? Because obviously we didn't play well there, but you keep the clean sheet, so you leave with a point. And Neil Harris talked about it post match. Is that the kind of the big difference for you from Saturday? The fact that we've given them those two goals, we've given them something to defend and hold on for, and it clearly sort of motivated their players. They sort of upped their intensity, or was there more? Was there more difference on Saturday compared to the Tranmere game?
I think like really like Shrewsbury gave a lot more. They offered a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but they offered more than Tranmere did.
Yeah,
Like Tranmere was a game that we were just simply never going to lose because of the way that the opposition was set up and obviously what their plan was as much as ours, and it looked like two teams who were quite content with a 0-0 draw, and it made for an absolutely horrendous spectacle. And that was kind of that. I mean, Shrewsbury didn't have to be good on Saturday, so let's make that clear. You know, they weren't world beaters, but you're right. Like they did get two goals and they punished us for being really poor and at quite important moments as well. So yeah, it's just one of those days where you kind of just go, nobody's come out of this with any credit at all. Can't think of anyone where you come away and be like, you've like at least you've done your job there. And it is frustrating because like you look, in the context of the season, like we're talking about where are we going to place, where are we going to finish, where do you see us within the division? And I believe there's enough individual quality in that squad that it could be a really good side. But the one thing that you always say about League Two is you just got to be consistent, and it does feel like we're potentially capable of chucking a stinker at a Shrewsbury or at home to an Oldham or something like that, and just having one of those days where it just doesn't quite go for you, and you can chuck in a bit of a stinker. So yeah, really frustrating. I mean, we've just got to be better than that. It's not groundbreaking analysis, but people just have to perform to a much higher standard, and I believe that for most of the season we have been performing to a higher standard than that. But yeah, quite a concerning performance, I think, because it does make me think a little bit more. Oh, maybe we're not that team, So it's frustrating.
Where are you putting the blame for this stinker, Matt? Is it on the players or is it more on Neil Harris?
Just think it's all over, isn't it? It's everywhere. Even if start with the players, even if you thought for some reason it wasn't your best 11 or they weren't well set up or well equipped to go about the game, it should be almost immaterial. Like we've got honestly such a good set of players for League Two level. And we've got one or two injuries. Obviously, Don Ball out, seemingly Parrington and maybe McLaughlin as well injured. Not quite sure on their status. Don't think we've had that actually confirmed anywhere. But neither of the latter two, are in the squad. It shouldn't matter. Like, there's no world where 11 professional footballers, even if you let's just say in a crazy thought experiment, we just jumbled them all up and we put them all in the wrong positions, apart from keeper, I'll say they should still be able to perform to a higher standard than they did. It's as simple as that. Like, literally, Walk said it there, but literally no player can walk off that pitch apart from probably Eastwood, who was just very underattended, didn't have anything to do. No one can walk off that pitch and feel remotely comfortable with the level of performance that was put in. And Walker's right, even just from an emotional level, it's like, you know, what does Shrewsbury away cost you? 150 quid to do as an away fan. Tranmere, probably same, 150 quid. You're dropping a fair amount of money, time, effort, energy into going to these away games. And we just expect more. Like, football players should just be hitting a higher standard. It's not even about whether you think we're mid-table, lower mid-table, playoffs, promotion. It's just a literal, like, a point of pride at this stage of, like, players have to simply play better. So I thought the players were poor. I don't like the way in these post-match interviews, it's even just little things in language, and I don't know this deliberate from Harris, but he doesn't take any accountability at all. Like, seems to properly distance himself. So even saying it's like it was the worst performance I have seen as a manager is a bit sort of detached. There isn't like I put my hands up, you know, I'll take some of the, he could say it, I'll take some of the responsibility for that. Like, you know,
yeah, he talks about intensity and creativity. I'm like, well, that comes from what you tell the players to do and the players you put out there in the lineup and so forth. Yeah, I agree. There's little accountability that I've heard from him.
The word from yesterday, I mean, and again, this probably does fall mostly on Harris. It is creativity or complete lack of creativity. Honestly, I mean, again, Walks has said it a few times this season. He's seen enough Cambridge United, and so have I, and so have you, to know you just had that feeling as soon, like, optimism when you see the lineup with two up top, flattened after about 10 minutes of the football, even before they scored the goal, because you just realised that, well, Shrewsbury had a good game plan. They knew to let us have the ball, because the best thing you can do against Cambridge United team right now is sit back and let them have the ball and just watch them go left, right, left, back to keeper, smash it at, by the way, we didn't sign a target man striker, so smash it at CUFC, who's like, is a goer, like, he tries, but he isn't the guy that we needed. And I'm not saying that it was a mistake to sign him. I just think it's all going to keep coming back to that. If that is going to be the style of play and the approach, we simply didn't do enough to get the target man to actually make that setup properly work for us. We got nothing out of Lavery yesterday. I mean, Lavery was poor. They were all poor. We got absolutely zero out of him because we didn't, at any point in the game, not even a 2-minute spell, did we play any sort of football that might remotely extract any of the ability that Shane Lavery has. Brophy, I barely even noticed till he got subbed off. I was like, oh, Brophy, he was on the pitch. Like, and that's not a dig at him. Could have been anybody. Honestly, anyone's number could have gone up. So I think, yes, the setup wasn't right, but I think if you're sort of waiting that, you know, if it's a blame game, I think it's more on the players, this one, because the levels were just horrifically far short of what it needs to be. I'll go as far as say we just cannot have another performance like that again. Obviously, me and Tomo were up there. There was a fair amount of discord in the away end. It was not a very Cambridge United crowd reaction, I would say. It was actually a bit more spicy. Even during the game, people were getting fairly audibly pissed off at what we were being served up. To go through a second half against a team like that and have no shots on target and to muster up 0.07 XG, I think we had in the second half, is just like totally unacceptable.
Speaking of totally unacceptable and worst performance of the season, now seems like a good time to remind everyone that thanks to our friends at Kandara, we've got a competition for you.
Yes.
Sign up. If you
do the hospitality, you can just go sit, eat food, get pissed. The football's almost immaterial at this point, right?
You just go hide under the main stand.
Yes.
Competition just for the coconut tier for the Nutters. We're giving away 2 hospitality tickets for Grimsby at home on the 4th of January. We'll draw the lucky winners in November. I believe live on the pod is what Caspel agreed with Julian.
Yes, I just committed Julian to that on air last time.
But you have to be signed up for the coconut tier before the end of October to be in the draw. So yeah, that seems like a good way to cheer yourself up after all of this nonsense. Right, let's get on to the game in more detail. I'm going to start, Tom, with a question that we've had in from Marvin. So thanks again as always, for those that send in questions via X and also on our Substack channel or chats. Tom, Marvin asks, Shrewsbury this season, Rotherham at home last season, and Cheltenham away the season before that, although I'm pretty sure we've got more examples. What is it about us helping clubs break unwanted records? I guess my question, Tom, is do you think this was a mindset thing? Do you think the players showed up and thought, you know what, we're here, we're going to win this game because Shrewsbury are just not up to it? Or do you think there was something more untowards there?
Mate, I've got a question as well. How does Marvin, with these big floppy moose hands, type out these questions? Have we ever asked that?
Hooves. They are, aren't they?
Hooves. How does he do it?
It's voice control, isn't it?
You think?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Walks.
So it's accessibility features on your
that's
iPhone,
all right, mate. No problem. You knock yourself out. I mean, technology is incredible these days, isn't it? You got mooses sending questions to us, class. I think there's probably an element of mindset to it. I'm not sure I'd go along with the idea that we sort of rocked up expecting to win the game. And I guess maybe the suggestion there was complacency. I'm not sure it was that. I think more than anything, it was just a total failure of execution, really. I mean, you look at both goals we conceded. One's a real cock up from Smith. The other's a really, really poorly defended set piece. So that's a big problem. You know, if you can't execute properly and you can't, defend relatively easy situations properly, like, you know, we've pretty much handed them the game. So I think that's probably less complacency and maybe more just a bit of a fragile mentality, really. But I think probably the big frustration is that having been 2 down at half time, to not then even look like creating anything in the second half is a real concern. I mean, you kind of had the idea at Tranmere that partly that was approach and kind of intentional almost to very safety first and stuff. And obviously our frustration there was that we didn't take the game to them more, start with 2 up top, that sort of thing. But it kind of felt like the players that were on the pitch should be able to muster up more than that and should be able to impact the game more than they did. And the fact they didn't is a real concern. And something that we've spoken time and time again about is chance creation. And it's just not been enough, really, in the past few weeks, really. You know, we keep going back to it, and it's almost becoming like, the second half of the QPR game at the start of last season. But we keep talking about the first half against Harrogate, where
everyone's obsessed.
where
we did create a lot of chances, but increasingly we've played quite a lot of football this season, and you're pointing to that as like really the only time where we've properly gone at a team and carved them apart and created 3, 4, 5 really good clear-cut opportunities. And the fact that we've not really been able to replicate that is a real worry, and it really hamstrings us in terms of what we can expect to achieve. So I guess if the question is about, was it a mindset thing or was it something else? I think I'm probably looking at mindset at least, in a way. Of course, there's an element of it. Obviously it's a physical sport, but mentality is really important. But I just think it's an issue with being able to get this team creating chances and all right, you can accept it on the one-off basis where you go to Tranmere and you're not able to impact the game, but it looks like more of a trend than the kind of one-off, and that's a concern, and realistically it limits what we can achieve this season.
Yeah. Speaking of trends, away form trend, Caspel.
Not great, is it?
Got a database question. No, a database question for you.
I see what you're saying.
Rather than a database. Don't tell me about what databases you use in your marketing company. So yeah, in addition to no back-to-back league wins, we are also yet to amass more than 1 XG in any away game this season. That, Caspel, is despite the fact that we have scored twice on our travels. 6 games, 5 goals, 5 points, 19th in the away league table, 0.83 PPG. There's your stats. Ben has asked, we're told a lot about this isn't how a Neil Harris team plays, but what does a Neil Harris team look like? And are Harris's words starting to lack substance? Now, you get that question about Neil Harris team because Tom has already talked about this in a pod that you can get via the coconut tier for our subscribers. But if your answer has changed, Tom, then feel free to jump on in. But we'll start with you, Caspel. Thoughts on that poor away form and then the Neil Harris team question if you fancy it as well.
So Walker's worthy of the coconut tier, but I've just got to chug it out for free to air. Is that right?
Damn right, mate.
I see how it is. Mate, the away form data isn't good. Obviously, we're talking about 6 games. Not like statistically strong yet, I guess, but
Quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, and we've just played, to be honest, 2 of the yes, we've had some harder. Weirdly, we've done better in the harder away fixtures than we have in the 2 slightly softer ones that just come. I'll hit you with more numbers, Jord, because everyone
You
loves
can't answer
data.
numbers with numbers.
I'm going to answer number with numbers. No, it's just supplementary to the numbers. So our current away PPG there, you said, is 0.83, which is correct. Our home is 2.16, which is great. But if we continue at our away form as it currently is, 0.83, then our home PPG, if we want to get in the playoffs based on last season, has to be 2.44. It's simply not going to happen if we're talking about us as a playoff team. The home form is fine,
and
right?
that's playoffs as well.
That's the edge. That's the bottom
Tom
of
and
the playoffs.
Tom and I were talking about top 3 after the Crawley game, but
that is to hit based on last season only the bottom of the playoffs, the 7th place.
Yeah.
So my concern is not the home form; it's definitely this away form. I just think the point is still relevant after Tranmere is if you've got an opportunity to go and do something more in an away game, then you've absolutely got to take that opportunity, if that makes sense. So it's sort of a weird reverse thing where, like, if you just accept that Shrewsbury was just an extremely bad day at the office all around, you can probably shrug your shoulders and feel okay about it if you've gone up to Tranmere, got your goal, and you've seen that game out and you've won it 1-0. You'd be like, do you know what? Look, we beat Tranmere. We executed really well there. The home form has been good. This is just a bit of a blip. The problem is all these away games are starting to feel a bit thematically similar. The feeling you're getting now is that when we go to the bottom half division teams, frankly, the worst teams in the division, as favourites, they're going to give us the ball. They're going to low block us. They're going to make it incredibly frustrating for us. And we just demonstrated over and over again, we do not have any creative influence really that's going to unpick any of the locks or any of the traps these teams are setting for us. And it's just hard at the moment to envisage a world where that away form climbs far above, like, let's say 1, basically. And again, if it is 1, I guess that's fine because you're drawing your, draw your ways, win your homers, and you'll net out in a good place. This point about the Harris team, to be fair to me, didn't say it this time. And also, to be fair to Ben, who sent the question, I sort of paraphrased the question.
I was surprised he didn't say it in the interview, actually. You could,
I think,
because he talked about like the 2 soft goals, and you're like, he's thinking about it.
I think he needs to be very, very careful not to overuse that narrative. I would say he's got 1 more transfer window. This sounds like quite ominous in terms of getting rid of him, but I think he's got 1 more transfer window left, which is January. And after that, I think we can solidly say, look, this is his team now. Like, we don't have too many ghosts of like recruitment past haunting us. Obviously, we know we need this season to end before we can flush out the absolute dregs of everything that's happened under Strang that wasn't positive, if that makes sense. But he's got to be super careful with this Neil Harris team narrative because we haven't won a home game impressively yet. And our away form is absolutely shocking. So at what point, we're 12 games into the season, we are like a quarter of the way through the season. At what point does the accountability start to come onto him if we're mid-tabling, poor performing, attendance is dropping? And this is BST, mate. What's going to happen when the clocks change? We've only got a couple of weeks. Could be an absolute disaster brewing. So it's like, yeah, he didn't say it this time, so we've got to be fair to him. But this sense that a Neil Harris team has like a clear identity, plays around these game plans, I think is getting a little bit harder to get on board with. If that makes sense. There's just a few monkeys we need to get off the back of this season. Like, we still need this statement home win. And the away form has simply got to improve, basically.
I did the fan interview, the fan preview on Friday's pod, and Dan, who we spoke to, the Shrewsbury fan, texted me at full time and said, if it's any consolation, there's no way possible that you can play this badly again this season. Thought that was quite an interesting message, given what you were just saying about our away form, Caspel.
Yeah, hold my beer, says Cambridge United when they go to fucking Salford away on Notts County, if you know what I mean.
Got Barnet away in the Vertu. That's a biggie. Tom, let's talk about Saturday in a little bit more detail. So the team lineup comes in, the team news lands. Were there some surprises in there for you? I mean, we had two up top, for example. Corey Smith got a start, his first in the league. The fullbacks, Bradshaw and Gibbons, both started still. Any of that surprise you? Any of that expected? Caspel touched on it earlier, but we found out after the game that both McLovin and Purrington were out injured.
I think, to be fair, yeah, I think we were kind of quite positively surprised, really. The fact that we did start with two up top, you were like, okay, fair enough. Like, we're actually going to come here and try and give it like a real go. I guess in terms of like surprises of like who's missing, you're probably surprised every time Kai's not starting because he's, has to be one of our best players and one of the best in the division, probably. So the fact that he's not started, I get he's coming off the back of a knock, isn't he? So, perhaps one that's easier to explain. But I think really like the big conundrum for us at the moment, and I know there's been a lot of chat about fullbacks. I think it's pretty clear that we're better in 4-4-2 with obviously Lavery and Kouassi up front. Central midfield is a tricky one. It feels like we don't really know what the best pairing is, but it feels like we know what it definitely is not after Saturday.
Definitely not those two, mate. Fucking hell.
I was going to ask you this later on, Tom. Like, did we learn about our midfield options on Saturday and which combinations can play either together in that 4-4-2 or maybe in different ones? And then another question from Daniel was, do you think McLovin is our best midfielder? It feels like he's probably had the more consistent appearances so far this season. I know obviously he was out injured on Saturday, so couldn't play. But yeah, where's your head at with the sort of central midfield options and best sort of partnership going forward?
We definitely learned something, I think. Probably not anything really positive. It's just, midfield's been an issue all season. It was a real issue at Shrewsbury. If you have 60% of the ball more than, and you create nothing, then that doesn't speak to much of how the midfield's operating, to be honest. I think you can kind of reduce it down to that. Second, sorry, I'm just looking at the stats here, man. Like,
it's
second
appalling.
half when
It's
you're
bad.
2-0 down,
It's
63% possession, XG 0.07. Like, that's appalling. And I know it's a bit of an old cliche, the engine room, all that sort of stuff. But I do think it starts there. I think that has to be the area of the pitch that, the platform upon which you build, I suppose. Like, obviously, famously, it was previously clean sheets, but in an attacking sense, it's got to be in the midfield, and it's such a weird one, and it makes it so frustrating because, like, at the start of the season, before a ball was kicked, if you'd have said to me, "What's the area of the pitch that you're like heavily confident on?" I'd have been like, "Centre mid." We're stacked, absolutely stacked. Like even McLaughlin, who's,
who we were all talking about as our fourth choice. Like,
yeah,
what a good fourth choice to have.
Yeah,
or like, a waste. Yeah,
but like even him, like he was captain in a team at this level last season. And then you go into like Don Ball, who's played for like Rangers and in the Championship loads of times, and Corey Smith, who was a big signing in League One for us last season, and obviously Pelly Ruddock, who obviously everybody knows about, but nothing's clicked. And I think there's a pretty clear hierarchy, in terms of how they're ranked and where you expect they're going to be. Like, you feel like Pelly's probably the top one, really.
Untouchable somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow untouchable, mate.
I think that's something that just has to be binned, to be honest. And you just have to look at what's the best combination. And, obviously, like, and if you have good players sat on the bench or out of the squad because there's simply better players ahead of them or players who are performing better than they are at that moment in time, then that's just the way that it's got to be. I've been pretty defensive of particularly Pelly Ruddock, because I believe that there is enough of a track record there. There has to be enough individual quality there to sort of persist with it. But it's quite an alarming issue, this centre mid thing, because nothing seems to be working. But the only thing that has worked is when McLaughlin plays. So I think that has to be a switch that's made. And again, I get he's carrying a knock, obviously by all accounts. So obviously that explains why he's not in the team at Shrewsbury. But it felt like earlier in the season it was just like Pelly and ball, like regardless of how people play or what their contributions are, And I think, it just needs a bit of a rejig, really. And I've spoken about it before, and like I think I always prefer us four at the back. I prefer us with two up top, but honestly, like I just wonder if having somebody else in there would help. Like I know,
Were his hands tied on Saturday? Like thinking about injuries. So if Don Balls isn't available to play, neither was Ben Knight, neither was McLaughlin. What other options did he have really? Like, do you risk Kai as a 10 if he's not fully fit? Perhaps perhaps we're looking at it in the wrong way. Like perhaps he didn't really have any other options but to do the 4-4-2. I need to look at the squad to remind myself who could come on.
yeah, I guess maybe, and obviously Saturday's one issue, but I'm kind of talking more about going forward.
Fair,
And
fair.
um, I think like for me, and maybe it's too simplistic, and maybe if our suggestion is that our central midfield is a bit of a bin fire, then arguably chucking more petrol on it might not be the best solution. But I do think just stick another mid in there, stick another centre mid in
Just
there.
put more people in there. Solve the
Yeah,
problem. Just keep
yeah,
putting them in there.
yeah,
Put
yeah.
four in there. That's what Richard Money would do.
But like I
Get
do,
more
I
on the
do.
I mean,
pitch.
Hoddle had
Like,
a good game in the Virtu. I'm led to believe. Like reward those
yeah,
that do all
he's
right
out
in
on
the
loan,
cup
though, isn't he?
competitions.
Like
No, he
On
was
the
on the
bench.
bench.
He
He
was
was
on
on
the
the
bench,
bench,
mate.
Huddle. Yeah, he's on a youth loan, which means apparently you're able to be in the squad.
yeah, I think that's what I do. That's what I do, and I know Castle's talked a lot about the idea of like a 5-3-2, 3-5-2
I'm
sort of
obsessed
thing.
with it.
But for me, like I just think that, and also like if you did have like Ball, Smith, Pelly, surely that's too much quality. Surely it has to be. Surely it has to just click at some point. Um, but yeah, a real problem. And I guess the issues that proved fatal were how we handled in the game. But the first goal is simply just a player in Smith who should be doing better, just gifting them not the opportunity to score. So
Should
yeah,
we talk
so
about that goal? Should we talk about that goal, Caspel?
Oh, must we?
I mean,
Fucking hell.
after a couple of early Cambridge United shots, a
Our only shot on
horrendous start,
target.
a horrendous start going 1-0 down, 12 minutes in. Like Tom says, Corey Smith gives the ball away way too deep from a rollout from Eastwood. I think a pass from Morrison as well. It feels like Groundhog Day because I'm pretty sure we've seen this goal a few times this season. Definitely Oldham at home, different personnel, but maybe not coming straight from the keeper or whatever. But like a central midfielder dropping deep to pick up the ball and try and pass our way out. It seems pretty easy to scout. So yeah, did that feel like the worst of the lot, given given how bad the opposition were and time in the game and things like that?
That's the worst goal we conceded this season. Yeah, you got to hope that will be the worst goal we conceded this season. To be honest, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of accountability in other places, but it's mostly Smith. There's one reason it's less Smith than I might think, is that the reason I think Smith got the ball in a not great situation, to be honest, like 25 yards out, facing his own goal with a bit of pressure. But I just think it was symptomatic of how he'd set up for the entire game. He looked up, and I'm pretty confident all he'd have seen is shirt numbers of our players because they'd all fucked off. They're all running up the pitch. Like the plan, I don't know. They just seem a little bit uncertain around what this plan is. And so his options, I think, were extremely limited, where really he should have a fullback, which he did have, to be fair, like have a fullback option. Pelly should be near him. Pelly should be available or trying to be available. So I just don't think enough was happening around him for him to be able to easily get rid of the ball. But then he dawdles, doesn't he? He takes way, way too long. I mean, to us, it looked bad in real time, obviously, but it looks worse on the highlights. I can't believe it's just our own goal kick under absolutely no duress, no pressure whatsoever. One roll, little pass, not great pass into a not great situation, stuck on the ball, robbed, and then it's just easy to score from there. I just can't believe in the situation that early in the game against the team. Literally said it in the preview pod. It's like, don't give them anything to hold on to. Do you know what I mean? Do not give this like completely worn of confidence. The first time they've scored open the scoring in any game this season, apparently. Just true. Don't allow for that to happen, if that makes sense. Like categorically, don't lose the ball there. It's just such a painfully poor mistake to make.
You said it's all on Smith.
mostly.
I want your thoughts on Morrison, because is there an element there to his reaction time, his speed?
You're saying after we lost the ball?
Yeah.
I don't know about that because the guy's kind of one-on-one at that point.
Oh no, sorry, because he takes the ball off of Morrison, doesn't he?
Yeah, and then
so it's before his
yeah. Morrison plays the ball into Smith. It's not the best, but again, I think it's not all about Smith or Morrison. I just don't think we had a proper plan there. All we did yesterday was shuffle it around the back four and or Eastwood, and then launch it. And it's realistically, there was not even an attempt to try and play through the lines or go box to box or any of that stuff that McLaughlin brings you. You would hope Brophy and Mayer are able to bring, but they weren't. So why is Eastwood even rolling it out? If we're just going to batter it up at CUFC, what's the benefit in rolling it to Morrison so he can play it to Smith, so Smith can play it back to Eastwood or to a fullback, so the fullback can then just pump it up the pitch. If the plan is just to launch the ball at CUFC, just go straight from Eastwood, because that means there's zero jeopardy or danger. It's not like we were trying to play out from the back, so it's just it's such a confusing passage of play from us, where I think we're sort of caught between trying to do what we think is the right thing to do, and I guess just not being remotely pragmatic. So what was the game plan? Was it is it actually to smash it at CUFC's head? If it is, I don't love that. But if that's the plan, then why aren't we executing just specifically against that plan? So you can just go direct from Eastwood. It's horrific from Smith. The only thing you say from him is he's obviously a bit short of match action.
Time, yeah.
And we were maybe slightly forced into it based on the squad, because obviously if there's no Ball and no McLaughlin, then suddenly we are looking perhaps a little bit thin in that centre midfield department. I mean, circling around with it, I agree with everything Tom said. Start of August, you were centre mid, we might have the best centre mid department in the whole division. Harris has got to solve this one. He's got to find a way to get the right combinations of people to get that department working for us. Because the plan yesterday, to be honest, from our perspective, was kind of to bypass centre midfield and just smash it at CUFC. But we also don't have a target man. So it's recruit well and get your target man, and then you can be this sort of long ball, fairly direct team. Or find a style of play where we can actually play through centre midfield and people are going to carry the ball. But for me, it's only going to be Brophy or McLaughlin playing in centre mid that's going to give us that mobility, that ability to take the ball from the edge of our third to the edge of their third. It's only Mayo probably is capable of it as well. I think that's it in personnel terms. But it's a weird situation we're in where McLaughlin's barely played and we suddenly think he's first name on the team sheet in centre midfield terms is unusual.
Tom, good news. You get to talk about the second goal, mate. A very straightforward header from a corner. Not very well defended, obviously. It doesn't look like any of our defenders get off the ground. And yeah, their biggest player gets a header in the box. I mean, seems pretty simple defending economics there. Thoughts on going 2-0 down in the second goal?
Pretty bad stuff. Yeah, I mean,
That's the first goal. That's our thing. Scoring from set pieces.
Well, I was just going to say, the first goal probably looks worse because
it's a mistake, yeah.
And obviously it comes from us being pretty comfortable in possession, and all of a sudden you end up a goal down inexplicably. I actually think this one's worse, to be honest, the second one, because it feels more and look, we have been pretty good from set pieces this season. That's fair, and it's something we've spoken about recently quite a lot. So, you can't just forget all of that, of course. But this is the basics. This is the sort of stuff. Even that we were getting wrong. Yesterday. That's before you get into the hard bit, which is actually using possession and creating chances and putting together a bit of an attacking threat. Just feels at that point in the game, and it was so frustrating. Because as soon as it went in, you were just that's it. That's game over. You sort of thought if it remains 1-0, you'll bring Kai on and you can kind of chuck the kitchen sink at it second half, and maybe something lands, maybe it doesn't, and obviously that's a situation that we've seen a lot of times. But as soon as the second went in, you were just just don't back us here to create anywhere near enough to even make it competitive, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, you kind of summed it up there when you were handing it over to me, George. You know, it's just it's simple. Like it's a corner in, massive centre half left unmarked, free header, and simple as that. Not much more I can add to that, really. You know, to explain it away. It's just pretty simple. It's basics, and to not get it right is, yeah, really, really not on.
Yeah. Casper, I want to come back to something you said earlier about a good tactic for teams we're playing is to let Cambridge have the ball. A lot of possession. I think at one point we had sort of 61% possession. You know, what do you think the issue is here? Is it we're just not good in possession, or there's a lack of creative personnel, or we're just set up wrong, or is it the gameplay? Like, what's your take on the fact that we've had a lot of the ball on Saturday, but seemingly not done anything with it?
I think it's like combination. It's complete lack of creativity, which we've probably covered enough, to be honest, in this pod. I think Sully Kaikai is it. I think that's it in terms of like authentically really creative footballer who think he's going to get the ball and really make something happen. I think it's so strange with Brophy, but there just is this weird feeling that he's underperforming this season because he seems to be, his game seems to have done a complete 180 in terms of
stats wise,
XG
with the assist,
XG
the goals,
and contribution,
XG,
and all of it. Yeah, he's like,
but you're right,
a lot of the numbers charts, but eye test is like just bet. I mean,
is that because he's out of position? Do you think?
I don't think he does at all well on that in that inverted setup. I just don't think it is working for him at all. I think the overall benefit for the squad probably outweighs the impact on him individually, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's just a lack of creativity. And then, to be honest, I always think it's just a lack of like, it's a cultural thing. It's a lack of courage. There's a sort of, it feels like there's a real unwillingness to take players on. I think it's almost what the coaching manuals are now. It's like a bit like Pep Guardiola, Pep Ball, if you know what I mean. Like, again, I'll sound so old school. You remember like Shane Tudor, Omar Ritza. These would be guys who would pick up the ball. They would get wide, they would get the chalk on their boots, and they would just run, right? They just sprint. They're just the whole premise of like that Cambridge United team under McFarlane and then into Taylor. Last time we were, you know, back in before we got relegated out of the Football League, was all around just like almost get it down, get it wide, byline, cross, you know, that's it. It's quite simple. Football can be a very simple thing sometimes. I just think, don't really know what's happened, but I just don't see in our current team, and it's been true for the last few seasons, to be honest. So it's maybe bigger than Harris, bigger than managerial, if that makes sense. It's like, where are the players who are just willing to, like, you know, desperate to get the ball? Corey Smith's been stitched up a bit. I mean, he stitched himself up with conceding that goal. But he was forced into it because it's like he looked up and he had zero good option. Like, Ruddock should be shown, fullback should be shown who actually wants that football and he's going to receive it on the half turn and go and make something happen. This is, in my head, this is what like Ben Knight, I know obviously injured at the moment, but this is the sort of thing that Ben Knight should be excelling at, if you know what I mean. Is like, drop deep, look for the ball, make stuff happen, like travel with the ball, take your man on, pass around people, but also, you know, actually run at people. I just think it's not exclusive to this Cambridge United team, but right now, as look at that from Shrewsbury and think no one really wanted the ball. It felt like no one really was like desperate to have the ball and make something happen, playmaker style. And if we've got a team where, you know, maybe it's artists and soldiers, but like, where are the artists? They're all soldiers. Is that a very Neil Harris thing? Like, does he just want like a combative, hardworking team that does like fundamentals but has no flair or creativity? I just really think we're going to continue to struggle in this sort of profile of away game. And to be honest, a lot of the home games as well, where we're expected to dominate, because we're simply not creating enough. It's either a personnel thing and or a setup thing that just isn't allowing us to do it. This is why I'm obsessed with 5-3-2, because I think if we have wing backs, we will be more creative, because we will have overlapping wing backs, getting around people. I'll have one holding midfielder, not two, and then we'll still have two strikers. So I'm just going to keep banging the 5-3-2 drum all season long, I think.
Let's try and wrap up Saturday. Couple of questions left for you both. In his post-match interview, Tom Harris said words along the lines of, "We're nowhere near where we want to be." Do days like Saturday show us, you know, where this team is, what is missing? And do you feel confident that we can build on this?
Well, we're gonna have to, otherwise it's gonna be pretty miserable. Yeah, I think so. And look, there's every possibility that you look back in 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 months, whatever it is, and you look at Shrewsbury and it ends up just being like a real blip, in what was otherwise a decent spell. Because if you put it right on Saturday, and you can go and string another few good results together, then maybe it starts to look a bit more like that. But yeah, like it's just like concerning for me that like a lot of the slight concerns I had and slight reservations I had on our legitimacy as like a top like contender in this division sort of really came to the fore on Saturday. So things like real inability to use the ball well, despite having such a significant share of possession, lapse in concentration defensively, key players underperforming compared to what you expect from them, from their pedigree and from their CVs, basically. And I just think it's going to sound really obvious, but it's a pretty bad trait of a team to be kind of unpredictable in that way. And the one thing you expect of a Harris team is that they are quite predictable in terms of approach, in terms of style. But what I mean more is kind of you kind of have the feeling that a stinker's just round the corner. And like we spoke after the Crawley game, like pretty bullishly, really. We were like the bar's raised.
Let's target that top three. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I still believe that should be the case. Obviously, we're a long way off it at the moment, but like that should be the bar for us at this level, given the players we've got, given some of the recruitment that we were able to do, and some of the wages that we're probably paying out. Like we should be better than this, but we're not at the moment, and it's the tendency to chuck in a performance like Saturday is basically the reason for that, I think. And yeah, we are going to have to build on it, like you said, and just got to move on. Let's see.
It's Jules and Swindle on the preview pod this week, also known as the Friday pod, of course. So I can ask you both about reactions. What do you want to see versus Bromley? How do we put this right, Caspel?
Bromley's going to be tough, I think.
They're ahead of us in the table.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well this year. I know nothing about Bromley, let's be clear, extremely clear about that. Literally nothing. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to know exactly what style of play or approach they're going to have. So I'll speak in more general terms, but I still think, same thing I was saying earlier, we're waiting on this statement home win, and it needs to be somewhere. And again, it's all these little inflection points of the season, but like we now have what you would finally say for the first time this season. There is a hard run of games actually coming at us. Like you look at it on paper and you think like Bromley is followed by two difficult away trips, right? It's was it Notts County and then Salford away back to back? I think FA Cup in this space in the middle.
Yeah, then you got Barnet at home as well, who are just inside the playoffs, I think. Yeah, they're in the playoffs as we speak. So yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like and this hopefully doesn't come across too reactive off the back of Shrewsbury, but I've just got this weird, unfortunate feeling that in a month's time, 5-6 weeks time, we're going to be looking at like 12th or 14th in the table, patchy in different form, still lacking home statement win. Because to be honest, like we've only got Bromley, then Barnet. Like let's say wrapping up that run of games between now, what is it? Bromley, Salford, Bromley, Notts County, Salford, Barnet. What is actually good points return from that set of games, and what points return are we actually going to have? I just got this weird feeling it's going to be like 3 or 4, genuinely. And I think at that point, that sort of, like there's this weird thing with this season where if you think of us about like a playoff contending team, it's just a little alarm bell going off quietly at the moment. And I've just got a weird feeling by the middle of November, it's going to sound a bit more like a big fucking gong at that point, because we're going to come off a bad run of games, is my feeling. I hope I'm totally wrong. So happy to eat my words. I'll eat my words, then I'll eat a skepasti from the old spring, if I'm wrong about this.
That run of form just in time for Radiohead away. Good stuff. Should we talk about the FA Cup? Because the draw is on Monday night, 6:30. We will be ball number 12. You guys want to hazard a guess as who we're going to draw or who you would like to draw?
It's funny, isn't it, when this comes around every year? We're talking about the train yesterday. You look at all these like little, well, it's like village, like these lower, down the pyramid clubs. That man, that'd be so funny to get them away. You just completely ignore the fact like there's strong possibilities you're going to get like a home tie against another football league club, if you know what I mean. Like, go on, Walks. Who do you want? You've listed
some standouts.
I've put standouts in the running order just because it's all the sort of
your Spennymoors, your Buxtons, Weston-super-Mare. Any of those names appeal to you, Tom?
One for the purists, isn't it? Weston-super-Mare away.
Little trip to the
Fuck
beach.
That.
Little trip to the beach in November.
Oh, where's lovely time?
Right, I'm purely going to go off.
Vibes.
Tottenham would be great. That'd be a real throwback, wouldn't it?
Is Kwesi now at Tottenham?
No, he's
I made that up. He's absolutely. They're still in the hat.
Truro would be that's too far. That's ridiculous. How we put Slough in there? So I'm just reading through it. This is very much like live reaction.
Right. You're asking how is it possible that Slough is regarded as a standout FA Cup fixture?
I don't think Slough in any sense has ever been described as a standout.
Wow.
So there's a first time for everything, I guess.
That's bad for the Slough youths who are listening to this, mate.
I was going to say, are you just listing clubs that are near your house, Casper, as standouts?
Slough is Slough near my house. It's sort of near my house.
It's
closer than
closer to mine, yeah.
Closer than Cambridge, yeah. I like the idea of North East, like Spennymoor or South Shields. That's my.
Is Scarborough still in it, or are they out?
I think I'd have put that in the standouts.
Just give us a home tie against a load of plumbers.
That's worked out really well in the past. So,
yeah, we made. Was Curzon Ashton last season?
No, it was a few years ago, wasn't it?
A lifetime ago, mate. This was during your horrible run of not seeing us score in the FA Cup that included going to Newcastle away.
There you go. That's it.
Bosh! Just always find a way. You can't talk about the cup and not talk about Ironside.
Yeah, surely. I am absolutely certain this didn't need to be in the run order, did it? Talking about the FA Cup. Didn't need to be in there. Well done.
No, I'm excited. Give me Spennymoor or South Shields. Surely, Walker, you want like what's the East London vibe? Is Malden and Tiptree is East?
That's like Essex, I think.
Well, that's what I mean by just keep going off the end of the central line, right?
Leighton or away would be ideal. Can walk there. Although we get absolutely pumped.
Yeah, we get absolutely pummeled, mate.
They've got a striker in red hot form. Not going to tell you his name because he can't score against Peterborough at home from a tap-in. So ignore that. Right, that seems like a good place to end it, chaps. Thank you very much for your time. I'm just going to say one last thing to you, Caspel. FA Cup competitions. If you like competitions, sign up to the coconut tier, right? Got one going for you.
That's it. Sign up to the coconut tier.
You have until the end of October.
Be in the hat. We'll put a dramatic. Can we put a dramatic countdown clock on the website, like transfer window style?
It's 2 tickets to hospitality.
Oof.
So you can either, take yourself plus a friend, or you could take yourself and Tom Walker. That seems fair, doesn't it, Tom? As a competition prize.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, second prize, 3 tickets.
That's it. You can bring me as well, yeah. Mate, you could go on your own and just eat 2 meals, surely.
Yeah, could do. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Challenge accepted. Yeah. Speaking of 2 meals, Tom, thanks for your time, mate. Go get that recovery dinner.
The Tominos.
Big time, yeah. I had to eat a week's worth of calories in one sitting. Can't wait.
Good way to end it. Thanks, everyone.